The massive cargo freighter Stellar Wind shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace near the mining station Kepler 442b. Captain Marcus Chen wiped grease from his hands with an old rag, the ship's engines finally running smooth after 3 days of constant repairs. The bridge crew had been skeptical when he'd insisted on fixing the quantum drive himself instead of hiring station mechanics, but Marcus preferred getting his hands dirty. 20 years as a starship engineer before becoming captain had taught him that sometimes the best solutions came from understanding every bolt and wire personally. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal," announced Lieutenant Torres from the communications station. "It's strange, sir. The transmission is coming from the asteroid belt, but it's not using any standard galactic frequencies." Marcus frowned, settling into his command chair. "Put it through." The speakers crackled with static before a melodic voice came through, speaking in what sounded like musical notes mixed with words. The universal translator struggled for a moment before rendering the message in standard galactic. "Please, anyone who can hear this. My mother is dying. The healing crystals are broken, and no one knows how to fix them. Please, if there are any engineers or healers out there, we need help. We can pay with rare minerals from our home asteroid." The voice was young, desperate, and somehow managed to convey both hope and heartbreak. Marcus had heard plenty of distress calls in his career, but something about this one made his chest tighten. "Sir," Torres continued, "the signal is coming from coordinates that show nothing on our sensors, just empty space and small asteroids." "Run a deep scan," Marcus ordered. "Sometimes the best hiding spots are in plain sight." The results came back 15 minutes later. Hidden among a cluster of ordinary space rocks was something extraordinary, a hollowed-out asteroid that had been converted into a living space. Bioscans showed multiple life forms inside, but their signatures didn't match any species in the galactic database. "Captain," said Dr. Sarah Kim from the science station, "the readings are fascinating. The life forms appear to be silicon-based rather than carbon-based. The asteroid shows evidence of advanced biotechnology. They've somehow made the rock itself alive and habitable." Marcus stood up, decision already made. "Set course for those coordinates, and prep the shuttle bay. I'm going over there personally." "Sir, with respect," interjected Commander Walsh, his first officer, "we don't know anything about these beings. They could be hostile, or the distress call could be a trap." "Could be," Marcus agreed, pulling on his jacket. "But that sounded like a scared kid asking for help. I've got tools in my kit that aren't in any database. Maybe I can figure out something their regular mechanics can't." The shuttle ride to the asteroid took 20 minutes. As they approached, Marcus was amazed to see that what looked like ordinary rock from a distance was actually covered in intricate crystalline patterns that pulsed with soft light. Docking ports opened in the surface like flowering petals, clearly organic in nature. The airlock cycled, and Marcus stepped into a corridor that defied every expectation he'd had. The walls were smooth stone that seemed to breathe, lined with veins of crystal that provided gentle illumination. The air smelled of rain and growing things. But what stopped him cold was the sight of his welcoming committee. 3 beings stood before him, and Marcus immediately understood why they weren't in the galactic database. They were dragons. Not the mythical creatures from Earth's ancient stories, but clearly evolved from the same archetypal pattern: serpentine necks, elegant heads with intelligent eyes, and wings that folded neatly against their backs. But these dragons were covered in scales that looked more like precious stones, shifting and changing color as they moved. The smallest of the 3, barely reaching Marcus's waist, stepped forward. Her scales were deep purple shot through with silver, and her large eyes were filled with desperate hope. "Are you the engineer?" she asked in that musical voice he'd heard over the radio. "Can you help my mama?" Before Marcus could answer, one of the adult dragons spoke urgently. "Zira, get back. We don't know if the human is safe." But Mama needs help, the little dragon, Zira, protested. And the stories say humans are good at fixing things that are broken. Marcus knelt down to Zira's level, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening. I'm Captain Marcus Chen, and yes, I'm an engineer. I'd like to help if I can. What's wrong with your mother? Zira's scales flickered with hope. The healing crystals stopped working 3 days ago. They're supposed to keep Mama's body strong, but now they're all dark and cold. The rock singers tried to fix them, but they say the crystals are too damaged. The adult dragon, clearly Zira's father, stepped protectively closer. I am Pyreth, guardian of this nest. My mate Silvara was injured in a mining accident 2 weeks ago. Our healing crystals are our most advanced technology, but they require precise harmonic frequencies to function. When the cave-in happened, several crystals were cracked. Marcus's engineering mind was already working on the problem. Can you show me these crystals? I've worked with resonance frequencies before. Most of my engine repairs involve harmonic tuning. Pyreth hesitated, but Zira tugged at Marcus's sleeve with one delicate claw. Please, she's getting weaker. The other adults say if we can't fix the crystals soon. She didn't finish the sentence, but Marcus understood. He'd seen the same desperate hope in human children facing medical emergencies. The species might be different, but love was universal. Show me to her, Marcus said simply. They led him deeper into the asteroid, through corridors that gradually opened into a vast central chamber. The space was beautiful, a natural crystal cave that had been carefully cultivated into a healing sanctuary. Formations of pure crystal grew from every surface, most glowing with soft, warm light. But along one wall, a section of crystals stood dark and lifeless. In the center of the chamber, on a bed of soft moss, lay the most beautiful dragon Marcus had ever seen. Silvara's scales were silver-touched with blue, like moonlight on water, but her breathing was labored, and her usual glow was dim. The crystals maintain our life force, Pyreth explained quietly. When they're functioning properly, they amplify our natural healing abilities and maintain the environmental balance of our homes. But 3 key resonance crystals were damaged beyond our ability to repair. Marcus approached the dark crystal formation, pulling out his scanner and toolkit. What he saw made him whistle softly. The crystals were indeed cracked, but the damage wasn't just physical. The entire harmonic matrix was disrupted, like a piano with half its strings broken, trying to play a symphony. Your rock singers were right that the crystals are damaged, he said, running his scanner over the formations. But they're not beyond repair. The problem is that you're trying to fix them the way they were originally tuned. But damage like this creates new acoustic properties. You need to retune the entire array to work with the new crystal structure, not against it. Zira perked up immediately. You can really fix them? I think so, Marcus said, already sketching calculations on his datapad. But I'll need to understand your technology better. These crystals respond to sound, right? Specific frequencies? Pyreth nodded slowly. Each crystal is grown to resonate at precise frequencies. Together, they create a harmonic web that channels life energy. The damaged crystals have lost their proper tones. Marcus smiled, the same expression he got when facing an interesting engineering challenge. Then let's see if human engineering can give your crystals a new song to sing. Marcus spent the next 6 hours studying the dragon healing technology with the intense focus that had made him one of the best engineers in the fleet. The crystal formations were far more sophisticated than anything he'd encountered before. Each crystal wasn't just a simple resonator. They were living structures that could grow, adapt, and respond to their environment. Fascinating, he murmured, running his sonic calibrator along a healthy crystal. Your crystals don't just produce frequencies. They learn and evolve their resonance patterns based on the needs of their users. Pyreth watched nervously as the human worked. Our ancestors developed this technology over thousands of years. The crystals are part of our body's natural harmony. That's why the damage has been so devastating. Meanwhile, little Zira had appointed herself as Marcus's assistant, following him around with wide, curious eyes. "How do human machines work?" she asked, watching him adjust his instruments. "Do they sing like our crystals?" Marcus paused in his work to explain. "In a way, yes. Human machines create vibrations too, but we use them differently. We make our engines sing in harmony to move ships between stars. We tune our computers to process information faster than thought. Every tool has its own frequency." "But how do you know which frequency to use?" Zira asked. "Trial and error," Marcus admitted with a grin. "Humans are good at trying things that shouldn't work until we figure out why they do work." By evening, Marcus had mapped the entire crystal network and identified the core problem. 3 primary resonance crystals had been cracked in the cave-in, but the dragons had been trying to tune them back to their original frequencies. The cracks had fundamentally changed the crystal's acoustic properties. Forcing them to their old frequencies was actually making the damage worse. "I think I see the solution," Marcus announced, gathering Pyrath and the other adult dragons around his improvised workstation. "Your damaged crystals can't sing their old songs anymore, but they can learn new ones. Instead of forcing them back to their original frequencies, we need to retune the entire network to accommodate their new voices." The eldest dragon, a magnificent creature with scales like polished copper, shook her head sadly. "Young human, we appreciate your efforts, but crystal harmonics cannot simply be changed. The frequencies were established by our ancestors through generations of careful cultivation. To alter them would risk destroying the entire network." "Under normal circumstances, you'd be right," Marcus agreed. "But I'm not suggesting we change your ancestral frequencies. I'm suggesting we add new harmonies that work with both the old crystals and the new ones." He pulled up his acoustic analysis on the datapad, showing complex waveform patterns. "Look at this. Your original network creates a perfect harmonic sequence, what humans would call a major chord. But the damaged crystals are now producing frequencies that create dissonance when forced into that pattern." Zira peered at the display, her young mind grasping concepts that the adults were struggling with. "So the hurt crystals are trying to sing a different song?" "Exactly," Marcus said, impressed by her understanding. "But what if we don't make them sing your old song? What if we teach all the crystals to sing a new song that includes both the old frequencies and the new ones?" He began sketching on the datapad, showing how the acoustic patterns could be restructured. "In human music, we call this modulation, changing key while maintaining harmony. Your damaged crystals have essentially forced your network into a different musical key. Instead of fighting that change, we can embrace it and retune everything to work together." Pyrath looked intrigued but worried. "The risk—" "I understand," Marcus said seriously, "but your wife is getting weaker while we debate. And I've run the calculations 3 times. The new harmonic pattern will actually be more stable than the original. The damaged crystals will act as harmonic anchors, preventing future disruption." The eldest dragon, who had introduced herself as Keeper Amethyst, studied the human's calculations with growing amazement. "Your mathematics are unconventional. Our formulas assume perfect crystal structures. But you're accounting for imperfection as a feature rather than a flaw." "That's very human," Marcus admitted. "We break things so often that we've gotten good at making broken things work better than they did before." Zira tugged at her father's wing. "Papa, Mama is sleeping more and more. Can't we try the humans' idea?" Pyrath looked down at his daughter, then across the chamber where his mate lay still and pale. "If Silvara were conscious, what would she say?" "She would say to trust the one who traveled across space to help a stranger," Amethyst said quietly. "Your mate always believed in taking calculated risks for the greater good." Marcus began unpacking specialized tools from his kit. Harmonic generators, frequency modulators, and custom-built resonance chambers he'd developed for engine work. The process will take several hours, and I'll need to work on each crystal individually while maintaining the network's basic function. It's going to be like performing surgery while the patient is awake. "What do you need from us?" Pyreth asked. "Your rock singers," Marcus replied. "I'll handle the technical modifications, but I need your people to help the crystals accept the new frequencies. From what I've observed, your crystals respond to intention as much as pure acoustics." Within an hour, Marcus had assembled what looked like a bizarre fusion of human technology and dragon crystal craft. His frequency generators were positioned around the damaged crystals, while 3 dragon rock singers positioned themselves at harmonic points throughout the chamber. "Remember," Marcus called out as he began the delicate calibration process, "we're not forcing change, we're inviting evolution. Let the crystals find their new voices naturally." The first damaged crystal began to glow as Marcus's machines sent precise frequencies through its structure. Initially, the sound was harsh and discordant, making everyone in the chamber wince. But gradually, as the rock singers added their voices and the crystal began to accept its new configuration, the harsh notes smoothed into something hauntingly beautiful. "It's working," Zira whispered in wonder. "The crystal is singing again, but it's a sadder song than before." "Not sadder," Marcus corrected gently, adjusting his equipment for the second crystal. "More complex. It's learned something from being broken." The second crystal proved more difficult. The cracks ran deeper, and its resonance was severely compromised. Marcus had to completely rebuild its harmonic matrix from scratch, essentially teaching it to sing again from the beginning. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he made microscopic adjustments to the frequency generators while monitoring feedback from the entire network. "Careful," Amethyst warned. "If that crystal shatters completely, the harmonic backlash could damage the others." "Trust me," Marcus muttered, his hands steady despite the pressure. "I've rebuilt quantum drive cores while they were running. This is just like convincing a stubborn engine to accept a new configuration." Hours passed. The rock singers grew tired and were replaced by others. Marcus barely paused, completely absorbed in the delicate work of acoustic engineering. Finally, as the asteroid's artificial dawn began to brighten the chamber, the second crystal joined its voice to the growing harmony. The third and final crystal was the largest and most severely damaged. Its lower section had been completely sheared away, leaving a jagged surface that should have made any resonance impossible. "I don't think this one can be saved," Pyreth said sadly. "Perhaps if we just stabilize the network with 2 primary crystals." "No," Marcus said firmly. "The network needs all 3 for optimal function, and this crystal has something the others don't." "What's that?" Zira asked. Marcus smiled, running his scanner over the damaged crystal's surface. "Character. Look at these fracture patterns. They're completely unique. When this crystal learns to sing again, it's going to produce harmonics that no perfect crystal ever could." He began the most challenging work of his career, using techniques he'd developed for salvaging supposedly irreparable drive systems. Instead of trying to restore the crystal's original structure, he embraced its new, fractured form and built a completely novel resonance pattern around it. The process was slow, requiring constant micro-adjustments and infinite patience. But gradually, impossibly, the shattered crystal began to respond. Its first notes were unlike anything anyone in the chamber had ever heard. Wild, complex harmonies that seemed to contain echoes of pain and hope intertwined. "It's beautiful," Silvara's weak voice came from across the chamber. For the first time in days, the dragon matriarch had awakened, drawn by the sound of her healing crystals learning to sing again. Marcus wiped sweat from his eyes and made the final calibration. "That's it. The network is stable. But now comes the real test." As the three damaged crystals joined their voices with the rest of the network, the entire chamber filled with the most beautiful music any of them had ever heard. It was the original healing harmony they all knew, but enriched with new voices, new complexities, new depths of meaning. The effect on Silvara was immediate. Her scales began to brighten. Her breathing became stronger, and for the first time in weeks, she raised her elegant head with something approaching her old strength. "Mama!" Zira cried, rushing to her mother's side. Silvara nuzzled her daughter gently before turning her grateful gaze to Marcus. "Human engineer, you have given us more than healing. You have given our crystals wisdom they never possessed when they were whole." 3 weeks later, Marcus was back aboard the Stellar Wind, but the asteroid was never far from his thoughts. He'd spent 5 more days with the dragons, fine-tuning the crystal network and training their rock singers in the new harmonic patterns. What amazed him most wasn't just that the system worked, but how it had exceeded all expectations. The enhanced crystal network didn't just heal faster than the original, it was more adaptable, more resilient, and somehow more attuned to the dragon's emotional states. Silvara had recovered completely, but she reported that the new crystals seemed to understand her needs in ways the old ones never had. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres called from the communications station, "we're receiving another transmission from the asteroid. It's Zira again." Marcus smiled and gestured for Torres to put it through. Over the past weeks, the little dragon had become fascinated with human technology and had been sending regular updates about her people's progress with their upgraded crystal systems. "Marcus!" Zira's excited voice filled the bridge. "You have to see what happened! The broken crystals taught the others how to sing new songs, too! And Keeper Amethyst says our healing chambers are working better than they have in generations." "That's wonderful news, Zira," Marcus replied. "How's your mother doing?" "Better than ever. She says the new crystals understand her in ways the old ones never did. And Papa wants to know if you'd be willing to look at our mining equipment. Some of our excavation crystals are getting old, and we thought maybe—" Marcus chuckled. "Maybe I could help them learn some new songs, too?" "Exactly." Before Marcus could respond, Dr. Kim approached his chair with a datapad full of sensor readings. "Captain, you need to see this. We've been monitoring subspace communications, and word about what happened at the asteroid is spreading through the non-aligned systems." Marcus frowned. "What do you mean?" 3 more groups have sent messages requesting engineering assistance," Kim explained. 2 are species we've never heard of before, and 1 is a coalition of mining colonies that have been struggling with equipment failures for months. Commander Walsh looked concerned. "Sir, we're a cargo hauler, not a repair service. And some of these requests are coming from sectors that are weeks away from our planned route." Marcus studied the messages on Kim's datapad. Each one told a similar story. Beings facing technical challenges that their own engineers couldn't solve, hoping that human ingenuity might find solutions where traditional methods had failed. "The thing is," Dr. Kim continued, "these aren't just random equipment failures. Each situation involves technology that's been damaged or degraded in ways that conventional repair methods can't address. They're specifically asking for humans because word has gotten out that we approach problems differently." "Differently how?" Walsh asked. "We don't try to restore things to their original state," Marcus said thoughtfully. "We make them better than they were before." Torres looked up from her station. "Sir, there's something else. The Galactic Engineering Guild has been monitoring these communications. They're not pleased about humans providing unauthorized technical assistance to non-member species." That got Marcus's attention. The Guild was a powerful organization that regulated most technological exchanges between civilizations. Their approval was required for any major technical assistance, and they were notoriously bureaucratic and conservative. "What's their specific concern?" Marcus asked. "According to their official statement, Torres continued, reading from her screen. Humans are introducing unregulated technological modifications that could destabilize existing equipment networks. They're demanding that all human engineers cease providing assistance until proper protocols can be established. Marcus felt his jaw clench. He'd dealt with the Guild before, and they were more interested in maintaining control than actually solving problems. How long do they estimate it would take to establish these protocols? 18 to 24 months, Torres replied. During which time Silvara would have died, Marcus said quietly. And these other beings who are asking for help will continue to suffer while bureaucrats debate proper procedures. Zira's voice came through the speakers again. Marcus? Are you still there? Marcus keyed the communication system. I'm here, Zira. Tell your father I'll look at those mining crystals the next time I'm in the sector. Really? The Guild won't stop you? Marcus was surprised that Zira knew about the Guild, but then remembered how quickly information traveled through certain communication networks. No, Zira, they won't stop me. After signing off, Marcus called a meeting in the conference room. His senior staff gathered around the table while he outlined what he was thinking. The way I see it, Marcus began, we have a choice. We can follow Guild regulations and ignore calls for help, or we can do what humans have always done, help people who need it. Sir, Walsh interjected, the Guild has significant influence with Starfleet Command. If we ignore their directives, it could affect our shipping contracts, our port clearances, even our crew certifications. All true, Marcus acknowledged, but there's something else to consider. These aren't just individual repair jobs we're talking about. Every species that humans help is going to develop better technology because of our influence. We're not just fixing their equipment. We're changing how they think about problem solving. Dr. Kim leaned forward, interested. You're talking about cultural exchange on a technological level. Exactly, Marcus said. The dragons aren't just using their enhanced crystals for healing anymore. Zira told me they're experimenting with new applications. Better environmental controls, improved asteroid mining, even enhanced communication systems. Our approach to their problem has sparked innovation throughout their entire civilization. But the Guild's concerns aren't entirely wrong, Chief Engineer Rodriguez pointed out. If we're changing how other species approach technology, there could be unforeseen consequences. Marcus nodded. There could be. But there are also consequences to doing nothing. How many civilizations are going to stagnate because their traditional methods can't adapt to new challenges? The debate continued for an hour, with valid points on both sides. Finally, Torres raised a new concern. Captain, there's been another development. We're receiving a message from an unregistered ship requesting immediate assistance. They say they're carrying refugees from a mining disaster, and their life support systems are failing. Marcus was out of his chair immediately. Location? 2 hours at maximum burn, Torres replied. But sir, the message includes a warning. The refugees are from a species called the Hegemony. They're currently at war with the Galactic Coalition. The conference room fell silent. Providing aid to Hegemony citizens could be construed as an act of war by some coalition worlds. But Marcus had seen enough genuine distress calls to recognize one. Prep for emergency burn, he ordered, and get our medical bay ready for multiple casualties. Sir, Walsh said carefully, this could be exactly the kind of incident the Guild was worried about. If we help these refugees, we could be drawn into a larger conflict. Marcus paused at the door. Commander, in 20 years of engineering, I've learned that the right solution to a technical problem is usually obvious once you understand what's really broken. And what's broken here isn't just their life support systems. 2 hours later, the stellar wind pulled alongside a battered refugee transport, barely holding together in space. The ship's hull was scorched from weapons fire, and its distress signals painted a picture of desperation. Marcus led the rescue team himself, bringing his full toolkit and a portable fusion generator. What they found aboard the refugee ship was heartbreaking. Hundreds of beings from a species that looked like crystalline spiders, huddled together as their ship slowly died around them. The refugees' leader, a being whose name translated roughly as Prism, explained their situation in broken galactic standard. Their homeworld had been caught in the crossfire between coalition and hegemony forces. The mining colonies where they lived had been destroyed, and they were fleeing to neutral space with nothing but the clothes on their backs. "Our ship was damaged in the bombardment," Prism explained, his crystalline body flickering with what Marcus recognized as distress patterns. "The life support crystalline matrix is fractured. Our engineers say it cannot be repaired without replacement parts that don't exist anymore." Marcus examined the life support system and immediately saw the problem. Like the dragon healing crystals, the ship's life support relied on precisely tuned crystalline structures. But these crystals were different. They were organic, grown rather than manufactured, and when damaged, they couldn't simply be replaced. "Your engineers are right that they can't be repaired traditionally," Marcus told Prism, "but they can be retrained." Working around the clock, Marcus and his team applied the same principles they'd used on the Dragon asteroid. Instead of trying to restore the damaged crystals to their original specifications, they taught them to work with their new, broken configurations. The process was more challenging because they were working with an actively failing system while hundreds of lives hung in the balance. But the techniques Marcus had developed were adaptable, and within 18 hours the refugee ship's life support was not only functional, but more efficient than before. "How?" Prism asked in wonder, watching his people breathe easily for the first time in days. "Our finest engineers could not solve this problem." "Human engineers think differently," Marcus explained. "We don't try to make broken things perfect again. We make them work better because they were broken." As word of the successful repair spread through the refugee convoy, Marcus realized something profound was happening. He wasn't just fixing individual problems anymore, he was demonstrating a completely different philosophy of engineering and problem solving. The Guild could regulate technology transfer, but they couldn't regulate ideas. And the idea that failure and damage could become sources of strength rather than weakness was spreading through the galaxy faster than any regulation could stop it. 3 days later, as the refugee convoy departed for safe harbor with fully functional ships, Marcus received a message that made him smile. It was from Zira, but this time she wasn't alone. Dozens of voices joined hers, dragons, crystalline spider beings, and species he'd never heard of before. "Thank you for teaching us that broken things can become beautiful," the message said. "We're teaching others now, the way you taught us. The songs are spreading, Marcus, and they're getting more beautiful with each new voice." Marcus looked around the bridge of his cargo hauler and realized that sometime in the past month, without meaning to, he'd become something he'd never planned to be. Not just an engineer or a ship captain, but a teacher of a new way of thinking about problems. The Guild could complain all they wanted. Bureaucrats could debate regulations for years, but ideas, once released into the galaxy, had a momentum all their own. And the idea that humans brought to the cosmos, that broken things could be made better than they ever were whole, was an idea whose time had come.